As a real estate investor, what will happen if Joe Biden wins the 2020 election? In this video, we'll be breaking down Joe Biden's past actions and future policies to see what will happen if Joe Biden wins the 2020 election and how that affects you as a real estate investor. I got a confession to make. I never really used to care about politics until I became a real estate investor, and I realized that my decisions as a real estate investor, politically wise, will affect my ability to invest. It'll make it harder or easier. Politics matter in real estate investing for this reason alone. The environment in which you invest in is the United States. And some policies that the president or Congress might pass are either gonna hurt or they're gonna help you as a real estate investor. For example, Bernie wanted to place a 25% tax on non-owner occupied sales within 5 years of purchase, meaning that you would get taxed 25% for selling a house within the first 5 years that was an investment property. And you would get a 2% tax just for having a vacant property. Those two things proposed by Bernie Sanders are literally insane. They do nothing good. I understand the intention behind it of making homes more accessible for people to buy, but what it's really doing is hurting any area that is lower income from ever making a huge turnaround. You know, like all these areas that are gentrifying, that would never happen with a plan like that. So first, I'm gonna break things down by topic and explain why they matter to you as a real estate investor. And then we're gonna go into Biden's policies, what he's done in the past, and what he's planning on doing if he wins. I'm just gonna present the facts and the data. If you get triggered, that's completely your fault, not my fault. All right, so first up is crime, right? When crime rates are higher, investors usually don't want to invest there because it's a lot of work and to deal with tenants and home values don't really increase. But an area that's safer will be better for an investor because that means that home values will increase because people want to move there and so will rents over time. So lower crime overall in the US is better for an investor than higher crime. So let's take a look at violent crimes, which is like murders and rapes, or property crimes, which is like burglaries and thefts, from the Bureau of Justice Statistics during the Obama-Biden administration and the Bush administration. Looking at the data for violent crimes, Obama and Biden have a mixed trend with an increase some years and a drop in other years, compared to the Bush administration, which actually had a steady decrease. And then when we compare burglaries, for the most part, the Obama administration had a steady decrease and Bush had a little bit more mixed. What can we say about Biden's future policies and how they'll affect you as a real estate investor? The campaign website for Joe Biden says they want a new $20 billion grant, which should be spurring states to shift from incarceration to prevention. And they want to eliminate mandatory minimums. Joe Biden has actually written in an op-ed that he does not support defunding the police. He also wants to give police officers the resources to implement police reforming, and they'll get more federal money if they complete those reforms. He really believes in community policing, where the cops have a relationship with the people in the community that they protect. He wants to actually give $300 million to reinvigorate community policing. Okay, so based on Joe Biden's past and his policies, what can we speculate will happen to crime in the US? So Joe's got two things working for him. His $20 billion grant that will help prevent crimes instead of incentivizing incarceration, and the fact that the burglaries have also decreased under the Obama-Biden administration. A big thing that's working against Joe is the wanting to remove of mandatory minimums. While removing mandatory minimums can lead to less jailings overall, that could lead to also reduced sentences and more crime over time by having these people that should have been in jail not in jail. So in my opinion, looking at the information we have in front of us, it seems like that the Biden administration would have a positive impact on crime, meaning that it'll be safer, home values will increase, and rents will probably continue to rise. So next up is coronavirus recovery, and this is a big one because we're in the middle of it right now. We're coming back from this lockdown that we had. Things are changing. People are leaving cities, moving the suburbs. They are afraid to go outside, afraid to do activities that they used to do all day, every day. And because of that, the economy took a deep hit. And when the economy's down, home prices usually drop and rents usually drop because people can't pay the rent. So it's important to see what the next president do will help us to get out of this scenario. All right, what has Joe said he would do for COVID recovery? Joe actually claimed that it was racist for Trump to make a travel ban on China. He's been saying that his response would be better. But in my opinion, when you start attacking people on race, you're really not really facing the facts and saying, this is what I have actually done, and give actual policies. And he didn't do that. So I'm not sure if he would actually come back with a better solution on what he would have done. Okay, but what has he said that he would actually be doing differently? He's also said that he wants to fix Trump's testing and tracing program to make sure that all Americans can get testing and be traced when they need to. He wants to fix personal protective equipment and make sure that those problems are fixed for good. He wants to give clear, concise, and evidence-based information to people. This way, communities across the US have guidance from the federal government on exactly what to do on how to handle the pandemic. And then he wants to give resources to families and businesses and schools in order to make it through. Joe Biden has said they want to plan for effective and equitable distribution of treatments and vaccines, because discovering is not enough if they get treated and sent out just like Trump's testing and PPE. Now, I'm not sure what he's referring to here, because I've had no problem getting tests and PPE, but I don't know how every American feels about that. He said he wants to protect older Americans and other Americans that are at risk. He wants to rebuild and expand the funds that were used to defend against pandemics in the future. And he wants to implement mask mandates nationwide, meaning every time you go outside, you'll have to wear a mask. Look, there were a lot of claims in there, and I'm not sure which ones are true, so let's try to break each one down. I'm not really sure what his issues were with the testing and the PPE, so I can't sit here and argue that, because I've got 2 tests, no problem, and I got PPE, no problem. But there's one thing I do know, is that having better communication around coronavirus, what the correct guidelines are, having communication in line between the president and everyone else, that could really help. And that might make people feel more safe, and the panic might have not been as high in the beginning. It would be great to have clear scientific evidence as to why you need to wear masks or wash your hands or social distance available for everyone to see. This way we're all on the same page. While I'm personally not a fan of wearing masks everywhere I go, if a mask actually helps reduce the spread until a vaccine is out and we all have to wear one, and that helps reduce the spread, then it can actually have a positive impact, because we can have people not as scared to go out because the spread will have been reduced. This could help boost and stabilize the economy, as people are willing to go outside more because they have masks, and that prevents the spread. Also, if there was more funding to help prevent pandemics like this in the future, that would be great, because then we could avoid all of the job losses we had and all the deaths that we had. So overall, I think Biden's plan will actually help the economy recover a little bit from COVID. Now, the next factor we're going to take a look at is taxes. As a general rule, the more people get taxed, the less there is money for them to spend. If there's less money for them to spend, that means less money for them to buy houses, less money for them to spend on rent, and they'll have to cut back in other places. So lower taxes helps the economy and helps you as an investor, and higher taxes hurts you as an investor. What did the Obama and Biden administration do for taxes? So I got this from the Obama White House because I really couldn't find any other evidence backing this up, but it seems like the Obama administration has increased taxes on wealthier Americans and tried to add some tax breaks for middle and lower income Americans. They increased the amount that small businesses can deduct from $500K to $1 million. They also increased the amount that small businesses can deduct in startup costs from $5K to $20K, which could help them have more money in the pocket to start when they're starting out. They gave a $2,500 college student tax break, and they increased the tax break for having a child. There were a few bad things that they did for taxes though. They forced Americans, including me, to pay an extra 2.5% of taxes if you chose not to have health insurance. They also increased your taxes by 3.8% if you're making more than $200K a year on investment income. Biden has also outlined his tax plan for the next 4 years, which he plans on putting in office almost immediately. Here's what it'll look like. Joe Biden wants to increase the corporate tax rate from 21% back up to 28% where it was before the Trump tax cuts, which means that businesses will have less money. If businesses have less money to spend, that likely means they have less money to spend on their employees, which means your wages will go down, or they'll have to cut employees. He wants to impose a 12.4% Social Security tax on anyone who's making $400,000 in a year. This can hurt higher income earners and prevent them from putting money money back in the economy by spending. He also wants to raise the individual tax rate for anyone making over $400,000 a year from 37% to 39.6%. He's going to be increasing the amount of money you make from capital gains, which is anything you make from selling an investment property or selling a stock. If you make over $1 million, he's going to increase the rate from 20% to 39.6%, nearly doubling it. That really hurts real estate investors. He also wants to cap the itemized deductions, which is what real estate investors take, to just 28% of their value if anyone who's making $400,000 a year or more. Two good things I noticed from Biden's plan is that he wants to increase the child tax credit from $2,000 to $3,000, at least temporarily while we're recovering from this economic downturn. And he wants to reestablish a first-time home buyer's credit of $15,000 for people buying their first home. For the most part, if you make less than $400,000 a year, this plan doesn't directly affect you, but it will indirectly affect you because it'll indirectly hurt the businesses and the money coming into the economy, which means there'll be less money to go around, less money for you, less money for businesses to pay you to have an income in order for you to keep investing in real estate. Also, your tenants might lose their jobs, which will hurt you. In the end, the less money that there is in people's pockets means the less money that they will spend. Less money to go around means less jobs and less economic growth. That means that there won't be people to pay rent, there won't be people to buy houses, which means prices can't go up. The Tax Foundation actually assumed that the GDP will drop 1.4% under the tax plan with Biden. Other than the $15,000 tax credit for buying your first property, it seems like that most of what he's doing is going to hurt the economy, not help it. In the end, I have to say that the Biden tax plan and what they've done in the Obama-Biden administration is going to hurt you as a real estate investor. It will not help. Besides getting a credit for your first property, other than that, you really are going to struggle to be a real estate investor under a Biden tax plan. You're going to lose money. It's a fact. While you can get a credit for your first investment property, you're gonna be able to take less tax deductions, you're gonna have to be taxed more overall, and businesses are gonna have less to pay, which can hurt your tenants, and then you won't be able to charge rent, which means you won't make any money back as a real estate investor. And this will only hurt you more and more as you invest. As a beginner, it doesn't hurt as much, but as you invest more and more, it will de-incentivize you from wanting to invest over the long term. The last thing is the unemployment rate and the economy as a whole. The better that the economy is doing, the more jobs that there are, the more jobs that are growing, the better overall you'll be as a real estate investor, because home prices will go up because people will actually be able to afford them, and rents will increase because you'll have people that can actually pay for the rents. Okay, over the 8 years that Obama and Biden were in office, 11.6 million jobs were created. And the unemployment rate dropped from 7.8% to 4.7%. You have to keep in mind that this is all done when they took office, and they took office at the bottom of the Great Recession, meaning that there was really only to go up from there. Nonetheless, though, not to take any credit away from what they did, they created 11.6 million jobs and helped the economy. The poverty rate dropped just a little bit when they were in office, from 13.2% down to 12.7%. The S&P 500 increased 166% since they took office. Overall, the economy improved under the Obama and Biden administration, taking us out of the Great Recession into one of the longest bull markets we've had in history. But one bad thing was that the national debt increased 128% under the Obama-Biden administration. Now, here's what Joe Biden said he would do for the economy and unemployment rate. There's these 4 pillars of his Build Back Better plan. 1 is mobilize American manufacturing and innovation to ensure that the future is made in America. 2, mobilize American ingenuity to build a modern infrastructure and equitable clean energy future. 3, mobilize talent to build a 21st century caregiving and education workforce which will help ease the burden of care for working parents. 4, mobilize across the board to advance racial equity in America. He's also mentioned that he wants to increase wages to $15 as the minimum wage across all of America. Given that this plan was actually very general, it's very hard for me to tell you what it'll actually do. The only real tangible thing I can take out of this was increasing the minimum wage to $15 across the country. While it might have some positive effects on getting people out of poverty, it really incentivizes many businesses to automate those jobs, because now as those jobs cost more money, it makes more sense for them to switch over to machines that will cost less over time. Either that, or the businesses will have to let go of some people in order to upkeep a lot of the same profits. So while it helps a few people, it really hurts more. While in the past, Joe Biden and Obama did a good job in terms of getting us out of an economic downfall, it's tough to say with these vague policies that what he's mentioned will actually help the unemployment rate in the future and help the economy in the long term. All right, so what will happen under a Biden-Harris presidency for real estate investors? Now, after looking at everything that Obama and Biden did, plus what Biden has said he would do in the future, it's really tough to say of whether or not it will actually help the real estate market. Some things will help create jobs, other things will help take away jobs. It's very difficult to say. Here's the thing, even if Biden and Harris get elected and it doesn't really help you as a real estate investor, it may even hurt a little bit. It may help a little bit. It'll only really swing like 1, 2 to 10% maybe of an effect on you. The rest is up to you. And if you follow my 4-step plan to buying your first investment property confidently and making sure that you cash flow on day one, then it won't really matter what happens when a president comes into office, because you will know for a fact that whatever policies they pass, you bought an investment property right that makes you cash flow right away. Now, if you want to watch my video on what will happen if Trump wins the election, then make sure to click on screen as the video's there. Go ahead and watch my breakdown of that.